I never imagined my stepson would cross that line. What happened next shocked me. True Infidelity Story. He wasn't supposed to be home that week. I wasn't supposed to feel anything. But then came the rain, the silence, his eyes, and one decision I can't take back. I never imagined my stepson would cross that line. And yet here I am, sitting in a quiet house, watching the sunlight hit the same kitchen tiles that once felt like home, wondering how everything changed so fast and so quietly. I've never told anyone this. Not a friend, not a therapist, not even the mirror I look into every morning. Because once you say it out loud, it becomes real, and I don't know if I'm ready to live with that version of real. People like to think crossing lines happens in moments of passion, loud, reckless, chaotic, but sometimes it's quieter. Sometimes it sounds like the click of a front door closing when your husband leaves for a business trip. Sometimes it feels like silence stretching across a wide, empty lake house. He was just supposed to be here for the summer. Tyler, my husband's son, 25, quiet, respectful, the kind of young man mothers say they're proud of. The kind of young man you never think would look at you twice, especially not like that. But he did. And once he did, I couldn't unfeel it, couldn't unsee the way his gaze lingered, couldn't pretend my skin didn't react, or that my breath didn't hitch in my throat. This story isn't about blame. It's not even about lust. Not entirely. It's about something deeper, something slower, a need I didn't know I still had, until someone saw me. Really saw me. And that was the beginning. The lake house wasn't always this quiet. Years ago, it used to hum with conversation. Weekend dinners, the occasional laugh echoing off the kitchen walls. But somewhere along the way, it all softened, faded. Now it's clean countertops, folded napkins, and silence so thick it feels like company. My husband travels often for work. Long conferences, last-minute site visits. He tells me he hates leaving. But his voice never quite sounds convincing. Maybe he says it out of habit. Like the quick kiss he gives me before the car pulls away. It used to mean something. Now it feels like punctuation at the end of a sentence neither of us is finishing. I keep busy. The garden needs weeding. The laundry rotates itself. I repaint the same windowsill once a month because the sun chips at the color. I pretend it matters. Most days, I don't even speak out loud until evening. Not because I'm sad, just unused, like a room no one walks into anymore. He doesn't notice the little things. That I stopped wearing perfume. That my sketchbooks disappeared into the attic. That I haven't made his favorite lemon pie in over a year. He's not cruel, he's just comfortable. And in that comfort, I vanished. I didn't realize how much of myself I had buried in silence until someone started listening. But back then, before Tyler arrived, I still believed the silence was safer. I had no idea how loud desire could get. Tyler showed up on a Tuesday. No warning, just a text from my husband. He's driving in from the city. Needs a break. Hope that's okay. It wasn't framed as a question. I hadn't seen Tyler in years, not since he graduated college and moved across the state. He used to visit for holidays. Polite, quiet, a little guarded like most boys are around their father's second wife. But when I opened the door that day, something shifted. He wasn't a boy anymore. His frame filled the doorway, taller, broader, shoulders rolled back like he'd grown into himself. He smiled, but it was softer, more observant than familiar, and the way his eyes lingered, not rude, not flirtatious, just intentional. It caught me off guard. I stepped aside and let him in, rambling something about coffee. He followed me into the kitchen, his footsteps slow, unhurried, like he was taking in the house piece by piece. He noticed the photo on the mantel, the chipped corner of the dining room table, little things most people overlook. At dinner, he asked if I still painted. I blinked. I haven't in years. You used to keep your brushes by the window, he said. I hadn't remembered that until he did. There was a quiet between us after that, not awkward, just heavy. Something unspoken stretched across the table like a thread. pulled tight. He saw pieces of me even I had forgotten were there. And something inside me stirred. The first few days passed in a kind of quiet rhythm. Tyler was respectful, helpful even. He carried in groceries, refilled the bird feeder, trimmed the overgrown rosemary near the porch without being asked. We didn't talk much, but he moved through the house like someone who belonged there, like someone who remembered the way it used to feel. One evening, it rained hard, thick drops pelting the wide windows, thunder rolling low through the lake's valley. The power flickered, then went out. I lit candles, set one on the kitchen counter, and another on the coffee table, the soft light pooling in warm circles. Tyler came in from the porch, damp hair clinging to his forehead, carrying the books he'd left outside. "You always used to light the cinnamon candle during storms," he said, setting the books down gently. "I didn't think you'd remember that," I replied, a little too quickly. "I remember a lot," he said, eyes steady. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, a folded blanket between us. The air smelled like rain and old wood. I poured tea, and we sipped in silence. At some point, the conversation turned, slowly, naturally, to art, to regret, to how fast life becomes something you don't recognize. He didn't offer solutions, he just listened, fully, with his body, not just his ears. That kind of presence, it undoes you. When the lights returned, the house looked different, not because anything had changed, but because I had. And I wasn't ready to admit how much that scared me. It started with a glance, one too long to ignore, too quiet to name. I was folding laundry in the hallway, wearing a thin robe, nothing intentional, just what I always wore when the house was mine alone. The rain had left the air cool and damp, the kind that clings to your skin. I was halfway through a towel when I heard a floorboard creak behind me. I didn't turn right away. But I felt him. Tyler, standing there, watching. When I finally looked over my shoulder, his eyes met mine, calm, but alert, not invasive, just steady. I didn't pull the robe tighter. I could have. I didn't. We didn't speak. I turned back toward the laundry, hands stilling over fabric that suddenly felt more fragile. I heard him walk away a moment later, soft steps down the hallway, and I stood there, heart pounding like I'd run a mile. That night, I couldn't sleep, not because I felt guilty, not yet, but because I couldn't forget the way he looked at me, not with hunger, not yet, but with awareness. The next morning, I dressed slower than usual. I chose a blouse I hadn't worn in years. Something light, a little sheer in the sun. Not for him, for me, or at least that's what I told myself. He was in the garden, shirtless, working the hose over the patio stones. I watched him through the window longer than I should have. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. That realization, that I still existed to someone, was the first real boundary. And it had already been crossed. I didn't plan the next moment. I didn't even expect it. It was just afternoon. The sun had pushed through the clouds, casting soft light through the kitchen window. I was carrying a basket of laundry down to the utility room, the quietest part of the house. I liked how the light there felt filtered, how the air smelled like detergent and forgotten summer towels. I knelt to sort through the pile, reached for one of Tyler's t-shirts, soft cotton, still faintly warm from the dryer, when I heard footsteps behind me. Not rushed, measured. He stopped just inches away. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I could feel him, not touching me, just there, close enough for the space between us to feel alive. My fingers held the shirt, unmoving. He crouched beside me slowly. Our arms brushed, just enough. His skin was warm from the sun. I froze, not from fear, but from the sudden awareness of everything. "You always smell like oranges," he said, voice low. "I use citrus soap," I replied, though my voice came out thinner, rougher than I meant. We didn't look at each other. Not yet, but our hands moved toward the same towel, and our fingers touched, barely, but it was enough. I turned to him then. Really turned, looked into his face, and something in his expression, something soft, unguarded, made the air tilt. He leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't rushed or hungry. It was slow, questioning, but sure. His hand hovered at my waist. Not demanding, just asking. My body answered first. When he pulled back, there was no apology in his eyes, only breathlessness, mirrored in my own chest. I stood up on shaky legs and walked out, not speaking. But my heartbeat followed me. And I knew I had let something open. Something I wasn't sure I could close again. The next morning, everything looked the same. The mugs were where I'd left them. The kitchen smelled faintly of toast and lemon dish soap. The breeze from the lake drifted in through the open window, warm and slow. But something in the air had shifted. I moved through the motions like always: coffee, folded napkins, eggs I didn't want to eat, but my body felt unfamiliar. Not because of shame, not exactly. It was something quieter, heavier. I didn't see Tyler at first. He wasn't in the kitchen or the living room. I assumed he was out by the dock or maybe in the shower. Part of me was grateful for the space. Part of me was disappointed. We didn't speak much that day. Just polite lines between rooms. Need anything from town? Want another cup? Like two actors in a scene we'd already rehearsed, trying not to miss our marks. But every silence buzzed. Every room felt too small. At one point, I caught him looking at me from across the hallway, his gaze softer than I expected. But unreadable. I looked away first. That night, lying in bed, I opened my phone to a message from my husband. Hope the quiet isn't driving you crazy. Miss you. I typed a reply, all good here. Quiet. Then stared at it, deleted it, rewrote the same thing, sent it anyway. It was a lie, of course. Nothing was quiet anymore, not inside me, not in this house. I thought about the kiss. The way his hand didn't push. The way my body leaned in without permission. And I wondered if wanting something, just wanting it, was already enough to ruin everything. But then I remembered the way he looked at me, not like I was someone's wife, but like I was still someone. And that scared me more than guilt ever could. I told myself it wouldn't happen again. That it was a moment, a mistake carved out of loneliness and a storm and the softness of candlelight. That I still had control. But the lie didn't hold for long. Every time Tyler walked into a room, my breath shifted, not dramatically, just enough, like my lungs remembered something my brain was trying to forget. I avoided being alone with him. Not obviously. I just folded into corners of the house he wasn't in, took longer showers, invented errands, but avoidance doesn't erase memory. And desire doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers. It was in the way I started choosing my clothes again, how I took longer to do my hair, how I looked in the mirror and tilted my head, not to fix anything, just to see what he might be seeing. One afternoon, I found myself in the attic, digging through an old cedar chest. Inside, tucked beneath scarves and outdated sweaters, was my sketchbook. I hadn't opened it in nearly a decade. The pages smelled like dust and sun. I flipped to a blank sheet and touched the pencil to the paper. My hand hesitated, then moved. Lines appeared, imperfect, shaky, alive. He walked by the doorway just then. Didn't say anything, just paused, looked at the sketchbook in my lap, and offered a small nod. Nod of approval, recognition. And in that split second, I knew. I wasn't avoiding him. I was circling him. And I didn't know whether I wanted to stop myself, or be caught. He wasn't supposed to be back until Sunday. That was the plan, that was what he said. But on Friday afternoon, just as I was rinsing coffee mugs in the sink, I heard it, gravel crunching in the driveway. I froze. Through the curtain, I saw the car, familiar, his, parked, engine running, but he didn't get out. Seconds passed, then minutes. I wiped my hands. heart pounding harder than it should have. Tyler stepped into the kitchen behind me. He didn't say anything, just looked at me, then out the window. "He's not coming in," Tyler said quietly. I swallowed. Maybe he forgot something. Maybe, but we both knew it didn't sound like belief. We waited. The car stayed. Then, just as suddenly, it backed out, slow, measured, and disappeared around the bend. He never called, never texted. That night, I barely slept. I kept playing the moment back. Did he see something? A shadow in the window? A reflection? Did he suspect anything? The next morning, he sent a casual message. "Everything good at the house?" I stared at it for a long time before replying, "All quiet here." He didn't answer. For the rest of the day, Tyler and I barely spoke, but there was a heaviness between us now, thicker than guilt, sharper than regret. It wasn't just about what we had done. It was about what might happen next. Because silence isn't always safety. Sometimes, it's strategy. And I had the unsettling sense that my husband's silence wasn't ignorance. It was patience. The house is quiet again. Tyler left 2 days after the car incident. No explanation, no long goodbye, just a bag packed and a soft knock on my bedroom door. "I think it's better if I go," he said. I didn't ask him to stay. I didn't ask him to leave. I just nodded, because anything else felt dishonest. Since then, I've moved through each room like a ghost, present, but barely. I cook, I clean, I answer my husband's texts. We talk about weather, his work trip, whether the roses need pruning. But something has shifted. In the middle of it all, I found myself standing in front of the hallway mirror, not adjusting my hair, not smoothing my blouse, just looking. For the first time in years, I didn't see someone's wife. I didn't see someone's mistake. I saw a woman, a flawed one, a shaken one, but real. I still don't know what that moment with Tyler means. I don't know if it should have happened, or if I'll carry it like a bruise for the rest of my life. But I know it woke something in me, something I had buried beneath routine, expectation, and silence. Maybe that's unforgivable, maybe it's just human. So I'll ask you, if someone looked at you, really looked, and made you feel alive again, would you have pulled away? Or would you have let it happen, just once?